Welcome back to another episode of Love It There. We are recording a full day later than normal because somebody had a date last night and took precedence over the pod recording.
I did not know you were going to be bringing this up, but yes, did have a date night last night.
I guess it was fine because Halle has a boyfriend now, so...
Yeah, okay, I guess I'm just dishing my entire personal life out on this podcast. I was not planning on it, but yeah, I'm cuffed at the moment, so tell all your friends I'm off the market. I know
we're going to lose so much viewership and listeners because...
I know the people are going to be so bummed, I'm sure, to be hearing this, but...
So, yes, I guess it's fine that we're recording a day later. Hopefully, you guys are listening to this on Thursday and we get it out in time. So, we will see.
It's okay. The people will understand.
Yeah. All right, we got a good episode for you today. Halle's kind of going to take the reins on this one. We get to chat all about Como, Italy. So, Lake Como, beautiful lake in northern Italy. Halle spent some time there last summer after her study abroad program in Spain. And I've never been, but it's definitely been on my list of places to go. So I'm super excited to hear about all the details and the recommendations.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about Como because it is probably the most beautiful place I've ever been. Basically, the way it's set up is Como is the main town on Lake Como, and around the lake there's a bunch of other different towns, but Como is like the main hub. It's where like the train station is, so a lot of people travel to Como, and then if you want to go to the other towns, you like go from there. But we also went to some other towns while we were there for like the 3 days. We went to Lenno, San Giovanni, and Bellagio. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those towns as well and just let you know things I would do differently, what I wouldn't change. And hopefully this will be helpful if anybody's interested in going there, because we went and had no idea what we were doing, and there's a lot of things that I wish I would have known. So hopefully this can be helpful.
All right, let's get into it. Enjoy today's episode on Como, Italy. Okay, Halle, let's start with all the details on the main town of Como first, and then we'll move into some of like the other little like Como towns that you also went to. So give us all the details.
Okay, so we arrived on Como on a Saturday morning. We came from Milan. So we were staying in Milan like the night before, and the trip from Milan is super easy. It's only like a 30-minute train ride. So if you are looking for a place to fly into, if you're like coming from somewhere further away, Milan is like a great place to start, and you can also explore there and then go to Como after. So that's what we did, and we stayed in an Airbnb in the town of Como. So that was kind of our home base. And it was funny because we get to the train station and we like order a taxi to take us to our Airbnb. And the taxi driver picks us up. And so, you know, he's making small talk like, oh, it's your first time in Como, like whatever, blah, blah, blah. We're like, yeah, like we're so excited. And so we can see like all the mountains in the distance. Like Como, I don't know, I guess the closest thing I can compare it to, I've seen pictures of like Lake Tahoe, and I've never been to Tahoe, but I feel like it's pretty similar. It's like a lake surrounded by like these gorgeous mountains. And so we're seeing like this backdrop, and it's so pretty, and we're in this taxi, and he's like, oh, like I've lived here my whole life, like it's nothing special. I don't understand why people get so excited to come here. And we're like, are you kidding me? Because we're like looking outside the window and we're like, this is breathtaking and amazing. He's like, yeah, you tourists are so funny, like everybody gets so excited. I'm like, it's just normal life here. I'm like, that is just insane to imagine like growing up in a place like that and just like taking it for granted. And we were all like losing our minds.
We think our like Indiana sunsets are pretty with like the cornfields in the background, and then you go somewhere like Lake Como and the locals there are like, yeah, it's just run of the mill.
Yeah, just any old day on Lake Como, no big deal.
Not quite the same.
Yeah. So our taxi driver takes us to our Airbnb, and we have all of our giant suitcases with us, and our Airbnb is on like the 4th floor of an apartment, and there's no elevator. So we're like lugging all of our suitcases up. But our Airbnb host met us at the place, which was super nice. So she was like helping us. Poor woman. She was like a tiny little lady, and she was like helping us with our bags. But she was so nice because we got up there, and like I said, we like didn't really know what we were doing. We hadn't done a ton of research before. And she gave us like a bunch of recommendations of like the best places to eat, the best places to see on the lake, and like showed us a whole map. And we'll post a picture of like a map of Como on the Instagram for sure, because we're going to be naming a lot of places and a lot of towns, and it's probably going to be confusing to picture it. But looking at a picture will really help, because then you'll get an idea of like where everything's located. But basically, she gave us some recommendations for gelato. So the place she recommended we go was Gelateria Guidi, which is in Como, right in the town square. It was super good. It was the only place we went to in Como. She said it was the best gelato in Como, but we had nothing to compare it to, but we thought it was pretty good. So that was that recommendation. And then she recommended a restaurant on the lake to get pasta. And I'm not going to try to pronounce it. We'll put it in the show notes. We'll put it on the Instagram. But yeah, are you trying
I'm like
to
trying to mouth it?
I'm not even going to
It
try.
doesn't look that hard. Okay, Ristorante, Pizzeria, Funicolare.
Okay, we'll go with that.
I think that sounds pretty good.
I'd rather you mispronounce it than me. So
fine. I've been embarrassing myself through the first 5 episodes of this podcast. So
yeah,
okay, what kind of pasta did you get?
I got, oh my God, what did I get? I need to look at the pictures. No, well, what I really remember is that was the first place I ever had an Aperol Spritz. And we all know what I think about Aperol Spritz. I hate it.
Yeah, so that's the jarring memory that comes to mind.
Yeah, is the Aperol Spritz. I think I got like a ravioli.
Okay.
But now I'm like, oh, no, that's wrong. I got seafood pasta.
Okay.
Yeah, I got ravioli in Florence, but I got seafood pasta because it was like on the lake. We were feeling seafood. It was so good. And an Aperol Spritz, which I wasn't a fan of. But this place was so amazing. And we like called ahead of time and asked for a table like on the terrace, because there's like a rooftop like open area, and then there's like an inside part, but obviously we wanted to be outside.
Right.
So we called like literally hours before, and we were like, can we like get a table at this time? And they're like, yeah, you got it. We walk right in. There's like a huge line, and we like walked right in. They gave us like the table closest to the water. Like it was like best case scenario, like so nice. And so that was like really good to have that recommendation. And it was like the food was amazing, and it wasn't like anything too crazy. Like I feel like if you think of like a waterfront pasta restaurant in the US, like it's going to be crazy. But the prices were like the same as anywhere else we had been in Europe. Like it wasn't any more expensive.
Nice.
So it was really nice. Yeah. Another thing that she recommended to us, which a lot of people do, is like private boat tours. And these are very pricey. She was giving us like recommendations for like her friend that did it, and it was looking to be about like 500 euros. And I mean, if you think about it, you can fit like probably up to 6 people on the boat. So, and like for an all day thing, like it wouldn't be like that bad.
Right.
But we definitely didn't do that. We were like, no, that's too much.
Yeah.
But I'll get into more of like the pros about that later, because looking back on it, I maybe would have considered it, but I'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Another important thing that we figured out was that Uber does not exist in Como. So it was all just like normal taxis. You got to hail the taxi.
Like Uber, Lyft, like no ride sharing apps exist?
No.
Okay.
We couldn't find any. And we were like looking it up online, couldn't figure anything out. So we just like had to hail taxis, which ended up being a huge pain the morning that we were trying to leave, because we had a super early train and could not find a taxi. So we were just like lugging all of our stuff like so far. Yeah, it was very stressful, and we thought we were going to miss our train, and it was a whole thing, but it ended up being fine. But just if we would have known that ahead of time, we would have planned a little better. But Yeah. Como was a really great place to stay in our Airbnb because, like I said, easy access to train stations. There was lots of restaurant options and like a whole like shopping square with lots of like not only touristy like knickknacks and stuff, but also like legit like boutiques and stores. Something that did surprise me is that there was no public beach access there. And I just figured like main town on the lake, there would be some type of beach there, but no, there's no beach access. And I guess like the water is pretty dirty out like around Como too, just because it's also like the main ferry hub. So there's just like a lot of boat traffic and the water just like gets kind of gross. So nobody really swims in Como. Another good thing about Como is that it's pretty lively all year round versus the other towns around the lake pretty much shut down anytime other than the summer. So if you're planning a trip in Italy or going to be around the area sometime other than the summer months, I would plan on staying in Como rather than another town around the lake just because it's going to be easiest to get there and back. It's a super walkable town. We pretty much walked everywhere except for when we had to go to the train station because we had all of our bags. And like I said, we got there on a Saturday and there was actually this like huge wine festival going on when we got there. And it was super fun. And they had like, it's basically set up like a farmer's market. There were just like a bunch of tents everywhere with different winery vendors.
Oh, that's so cute.
It was so cute. And you like walk up and you pay 10 euros. And for the 10 euros, you get a wine glass and then you get 10 tickets. And then each like wine tasting was either 1, 2, or 3 tickets, depending on how long it had been aged and like how expensive the wine was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was really cool. So if you could have up to like 10 tastings and low-key the pours were big. Okay. Like,
yeah, 10 euros. That's like nothing.
No, I know. It was great. And so, well, and you could buy more tickets too if you wanted to, but we just got like the 10 ticket option.
That's such a good deal.
Yeah.
Did you guys just stumble upon this?
Yes. It was just like in the main square. We had no idea what was going on. We were like, oh, let's go like walk around and explore a little bit. And we walked into this like huge wine festival.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was so fun.
That sounds like my dream. I would love that.
Oh, it was so fun because like I said earlier, I'm like working on expanding my wine palette because I feel like I'm not very educated. And this was actually before we went to Florence. So I like hadn't been on the wine tasting yet. And I was like, oh, good. I want to like see which wines I like, whatever. And it was like so good. It was so fun and just like getting to try all the different kinds. I remember I texted you, Kelcy. I was like, I really liked the sparkling wines, which really surprised me.
Yeah, I do remember you texting me that.
Because I don't like carbonation. Like I don't like soda. But I really liked the sparkling wines, which surprised me. But yeah, so that was super fun. Something that we just like randomly stumbled upon, but pretty sure that's like a common thing that they do. Like I think it's like an every Saturday during the summer. They do their like little wine festival. So that was super fun. Okay. Something that I definitely want to talk about is the boat taxi, which this is available in every town, but Como obviously has the biggest like taxi station. We would have done this so differently. This was like the biggest learning curve, but basically to get from town to town around the lake, there's not a lot of roads because it's very mountainous and it would take way longer to drive to get to a different town than it would to just take the boat taxi. So if you want to picture the lake, it's basically shaped like an upside down Y, and Como's at like the bottom tip of the left branch of the Y. So we wanted to take the boat taxi. It basically bounces back and forth along the whole lake. You can go all the way up, all the way down. It's a huge lake, so it would take you forever if you wanted to do that. But we got a day pass for 23 euros per person, and it gave you unlimited trips from Como to Bellagio, which is at like the point where the two Y branches meet. That's where Bellagio is. So you can't go all the way up to the north. But for context,
stops along the way from Como to Bellagio.
Constant stops back and forth. And I'll get to this later about like how long it took to get from Bellagio to Como. Okay. But yeah, so for an all-day pass, it was 23 euros, which totally worth it. It was great, super convenient, but the line was so long.
And get on the taxi?
To get a ticket.
Oh.
Because you had to wait in a line to get your ticket, and then you had to wait in line to get on the boat. So it ended up being like, I think it was like noon till we even got on the boat, because we waited in line for like, because we woke up, we got breakfast, and then I think we waited in line for like an hour and a half to get the tickets. Yeah. So definitely plan for that. Get there really early, and just expect that, because we, like I said, didn't know what we were doing, had no idea it was going to be as crazy as it was. But once we got the tickets,
I was going to say, I mean, it was a weekend in the summer. So
oh yeah,
I'm sure that was like not the best time to be trying to do that.
For sure. Yeah. But eventually we got our tickets. We got on the boat, and they have regular boats and they have fast boats. So basically the fast boats go from only to the big towns. So they would go from like, we took the fast boats on the way there, like on the way out. So we went from Como, and then it stopped at like one port, and then it got to Lenno, which is going to be the next spot I talk about. And then it went to like maybe one other town, and then Bellagio. So that's pretty quick because there's like no stops. So it like goes from point A to point B pretty quickly. And then there's regular boats that stop at every single town. So if you want to go to a smaller town or a smaller port, you would stop at, or you would take a regular boat versus a fast boat. So that's just something to keep in mind, depending on what you're wanting to see, where you're wanting to go. Just keep in mind which boat you get on, because there's differences in their schedules. But yes. So that's
Did you feel like that was like pretty clear though? Like looking at the schedule, you knew it's clear like what to take. It's not like the London transportation system where you're like, where am I going?
Okay, honestly, no. And we did like get stuck in a pretty bad situation, which I'll talk about later.
Okay.
Where we almost got stranded because we like weren't really paying attention to the boat schedules, because we were just like, oh, like it'll be fine. Like there's so many times on here. And we were just dumb and like didn't really look at it. And there, I don't even know how to explain it. Basically, they give you this like huge spreadsheet, and it's just like so many rows and so many columns with like so many numbers. And like if it has an asterisk, it's a fast boat. If it doesn't, it's a regular boat. So there was just like so many things going on. And so we were just kind of like, oh, like we'll be fine, like whatever. And we didn't really pay that much attention. And don't do that, because it almost ended very bad. But
do your research, plan ahead, take your time to understand the ferry schedule.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that basically was Como. Once we got our tickets, we left Como and stopped at our next town, which was Lenno. And I have a couple of things that we can talk about related to listener content, if you want to talk about that, Kels.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into the listener requested content. So one of our listeners requested or just wanted to know about the James Bond filming locations near Lake Como. So I personally have never seen a single James Bond movie. I think there's a lot, right?
I also have not. So.
We are not movie people. Our family just did not grow up like watching movies. I don't know what we did.
I don't either. Yeah, we were a big board game family, which is like, honestly, no, I like love a good board game to this day.
Oh,
so
please give me a game night over a movie night every day of the week. And
yeah, so I guess that's just how we were like brought up, and people are probably like, these girls are like uncultured, like what? Because well, we're also going to talk about Star Wars, and I also have like never seen a Star Wars movie, so
not a one.
Okay.
So, okay.
People yikes. People are probably like,
we have other interests. There's nothing wrong with that.
We love Harry Potter. We were a big Harry Potter family, so ask us anything about those movies. We could tell you any day of the week. But
yes.
Okay, so about James Bond filming location in Lenno, we went to this amazing spot called, oh God, I'm just like
Villa del Balbianello.
Okay, that was good. I feel like that was right.
These will all be a reminder. All of these things we talk about will be in the show notes. of each podcast episode with the spelling and everything you need to know. So when we struggle through, just refer back down to the show notes.
Exactly. There you go. So basically, I'm going to talk about what this place is, and then I'll explain how it connects to the movies.
This villa.
But this villa, it was originally built as a monastery hundreds and hundreds of years ago. After the cardinal of the monastery died, it was passed down through the family, and I guess eventually this family like lost rank, so they couldn't keep up with it anymore, and basically the property got super overgrown and like abandoned. And this American businessman basically bought it and restored the property, and now it's this like beautiful villa with these gardens and a mansion, and like restored it to like its original state, which I just think is amazing.
It for now?
Now it's like a garden that you can like go tour. You can go tour everything,
so
and
it's
also
a tourist destination, basically.
It's a tourist destination and like a wedding spot.
Oh wow, that would be beautiful.
Yeah, and when we were there, we saw people taking pictures for a wedding, and we were just standing there like jaw dropped because first of all, I'd love to know how much it costs to reserve that.
Oh, I don't think I do want to know. I think I would throw up.
Yeah, I'm sure it's just an ungodly amount of money, but it is the most beautiful place ever. So basically, if you are familiar with James Bond Casino Royale, that movie was filmed there. I couldn't tell you the scene because I've never seen it. So
Hallie, you should have done research. You were too busy on your date eating steak from your new boyfriend, and you didn't do research for the podcast.
Literally, stop bringing this up. You're making me cringe. No more. Okay.
Right. That's it. No more.
Yes. Okay, guys, I'm sorry. I've had a crazy week. I've been busy. I should have done more research. You're right. And I'm sorry, Kyle, because you were the one that requested this. And I really let you down. You could probably learn more in a Google search than you could by listening to this hour-long podcast. So I'm sorry. But Star Wars 2, Attack of the Clones, also filmed there. I do know what scene this was. This is the kissing scene between Anakin Skywalker and I literally don't even know how to say her name. Padme. This is gonna be so embarrassing. I know I'm embarrassing myself because I should know how to say these names.
Well, okay, you know how to say Anakin Skywalker. Everybody knows who that is. Who's this other chick? She is not.
She's like
well
a main character. Kelcy.
Is she? Oh, yes. Literally, I've never heard that name.
It's like their kissing scene, or like, I don't know if they're getting married. It's some like famous kissing scene.
I didn't know the premise of Star Wars. Like what? I don't even know what the story is. I know,
we're exposing ourselves like so bad, actually.
We're about to get some hate.
Oh, I know. I'm so sorry. I need to watch these movies. But anyways, one of the girls I was with is like a huge Star Wars fan. So she knew about this place and like researched it and was like, I really want to go here because this is where the scene was filmed. Like, I want to see it. And we all were like, okay, like whatever. Like none of the other 3 girls that I was with, like nobody else really cared. But we were just like, sure, like you want to go, let's go. We had no idea what this place is. And basically you get off the boat port in Lenno and you walk like 15 minutes and then you get to this like gate that's like trail to the villa. And you have to hike like 20 minutes to get to this place. And so we're like on this hike and none of us have any idea where we're going except for this girl who like knows what to expect. But we're all just like walking. We have no idea where we're going. And you can also get a taxi, like they do like a shuttle service, but it was like 20 euros or something. So we're like, obviously we're going to walk. It wasn't that bad. But yeah, then we get there and it was just like the most beautiful thing ever, like highlight of my entire time there. I'm so glad we went. It had the most beautiful views, just so picturesque, and it was seriously so amazing. So even though I like didn't really know what these movies were, like didn't even have like the significant like, oh wow, like I grew up like seeing this scene, like I didn't even have that, and it still was so amazing. So totally recommend going.
Almost better to see the place in real life first, and then when you watch the movies you have like so much more of an appreciation for it when you actually see that spot in the movie.
Yeah.
As opposed to like the other way around.
The other way around. Yeah. That could be true. So that's just another reason I need to watch the movies, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do have to pay to enter. There's the garden part and the villa part. So we just did the garden, and that was 12 euros. And if you want to see both, it was 23. But we didn't like to go into the villa. Yeah.
Okay.
So we didn't do that. So I can't like speak to that part. But the gardens is like huge. There's like so much that you can walk around and see. So we felt like that was like plenty. I guess I can't say if I like regret not going to see the villa because I don't know what it looks like. It's probably just as beautiful, but we did not do that. Another thing that Lenno had was a couple beach clubs. So you could like pay to go into these nice clubs, and they had like a very nice restaurant, very nice like chairs and seating and access to the lake, obviously. And then at night they like turn into clubs. But the prices were pretty expensive. I can't remember exactly, but I want to say they were charging 70 euros for just like a spot, like just to get like a chair.
Yeah.
And then that didn't even include like food or drink. It was, yeah, pretty expensive. So we did not do that. But the pro of those clubs is that because there is a public beach in Lenno, but the beaches on Lake Como aren't really beaches. They're very rocky. It's not sand, it's just rocks. So obviously the locals have like their chairs and like they're prepared for it. We had like towels that we literally stole from the Airbnb that we like definitely weren't even supposed to be using, but we didn't have our own towels. So we're just like carrying those around, and that's all we have. So it would have been really nice to have like actual plush, comfy, luxurious chairs instead of just like laying on these stones. It was so uncomfortable. But yeah, so that would be a pro of doing that. Or this is one of the things that like if I would go back and do it again, even though I love a good Airbnb, it was so convenient. The price was like, it saved us a lot of money doing it that way. But I would honestly recommend staying at like a resort because they are going to have like chairs available for you and more of like a nice beach like access area, because they're just like it's just like not what you would expect. It's not what I expected from like when I pictured a lake with like sand going into it. That's just like not how it is. It's just very rocky. So
yeah, because I mean, if it's like in the mountains, that's what you're gonna get. It's gonna be rocky. Yeah.
And if we would have done any little tiny bit of research, we would have known. But
it's okay. Now I can take all these tips for the next time. Hopefully, I go to Como someday, and I'll be good to go, as will all of our listeners. So
yeah,
you have to. I mean, both of us have to just go make these mistakes, and then we learn from it. This is the purpose of this podcast: to share all of our tips for everybody else to not make the same mistakes we did.
And that was like honestly the inspiration for this, because we're like, we have done so many dumb things that like if we just would have had somebody to give us advice and give us these wise words of like, no, don't do that. That would be dumb. And we didn't have that. So now we want to be those people for you, so you don't make the same mistakes that we do.
Because I feel like when you Google a place or like read these blogs, like what should we do in Lake Como? It's like, go to Lake Como, go to this villa, go to blah, 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 and like see this, look at this. But it's like, okay, yes, I know these are all the big like tourist attractions, but like how? Like how do we do that? What's the best way to do that? Like what do we actually need to know? And I feel like that's where our podcast, we're trying to kind of fill in those gaps for you, hopefully in a little bit of an interesting way. But yeah, hopefully we can put those little tips and tricks in here.
Yeah, that's the goal. So hopefully this is helpful somewhat. But yeah, so we didn't end up going to the public beach in Lenno. We had heard of a beach that was in another town. So we were like, okay, we want to see some more towns. So we left Lenno, went to the next place, and it was called San Giovanni. So San Giovanni is the town right next to Bellagio. And Bellagio is like probably the next most well-known town behind Como on Lake Como. And we knew we wanted to go to Bellagio. So we were like, okay, we'll go to this little town next to Bellagio, San Giovanni. We knew there was like a beach there. And then our plan was just to go from there, hit Bellagio, and then come home. So we get to this tiny little port. So we had to take like the slow boat to get there because this was not like a main stop that the big fast boats would stop at. So we get to San Giovanni and we like walk over, get to the public beach. This is like core memory, guys. Like I loved it. I like look at the pictures that I took from this San Giovanni little town, and it was just like the best experience ever because we get to this beach and it's just like all these locals like hanging out because it's like this tiny little small port. So there's not a lot of tourists, it's a lot of locals. And there's this like dock out in the water that everybody was like swimming out to and jumping off of. And so like me and all my friends were like, we swam out and we were like jumping off and like diving off of this dock with like all the locals, and like everybody was just like hanging out and like floating in the water. And I will just never forget like jumping off the dock and then just like laying in the water and like looking at all the mountains that I'm just like surrounded by. Like it was just the most beautiful thing. And I know it sounds so like not that exciting, not that spectacular when I'm describing it, but seriously, it is going to be like that moment specifically will be ingrained in my memory forever because it was just so unbelievable.
No, that's how I felt when Jackson and I were in Interlaken and we were swimming in the lake there, like surrounded by the mountains, and I had like posted the pictures on my story and you were like, "Oh my gosh, this reminds me of Lake Como." So
yeah.
I know the feeling. I know.
So you get it.
Yes, I get it. And there's something special about that. Just when you like, well, if you can kind of just like revel in what you're doing and like really kind of soak that all in and be like, I'm in Italy right now.
Yes.
Swimming with the locals in this most perfect place that you just dream about.
Yeah.
And you're like getting to experience that, which is, it's so cool and so special. The world is beautiful. So to be able to kind of like live it and be in that moment is so cool.
Yeah. And that's something that's like so important when you are traveling, like whether you're on like a random spring break trip to like Florida or something that like some people might consider small, some people might not, or like halfway around the world getting to experience something you never thought you could experience. Like it doesn't matter what you're doing, but like it's so important to take the step back and be like, okay, I need to be so thankful that I'm here right now and that I'm like getting to escape reality for a little bit. And just like that's what traveling is about. Like, yeah, you want to like experience the culture and like experience something new, but just like getting to escape for a little bit and getting to just like think about something else and put yourself in a new setting and experience new things. It's like so special and literally just felt like so free in that moment. I was like, I don't have a care in the world. I'm just living it up in Italy.
Oh, I love that. Wait,
yeah.
Was this the location of the red swimsuit pics?
No, that was in Madrid.
Oh, okay.
That was in a lake by Madrid.
We'll bring that up later, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, a little teaser. Me and my red swimsuit. People are like, what are the red swimsuit pics?
I just remembered something else about that, though.
Oh, I literally know what you're going to say.
Can I share this? Wait, this is hilarious.
Okay, yeah, I don't care. People already know too much about my personal life, so.
Hallie sends me this picture of her in a bikini. Apparently, she was in Madrid. I thought she was here in Lake Como, but she literally sends me this picture of her in a bikini, and she goes, "Can you tell I haven't pooped in 6 days?"
Because it was also like from the side, so it was like really exposing, and I was like, "Oh, this is just not my normal self." But like, maybe you can't tell.
Oh my gosh, you guys, she looked great. It was fine. It went on the gram, so
it did make it on the gram, and nobody made any comments that I looked constipated.
Oh my gosh, you could literally not tell.
I could tell, dude. That was not a fun experience. But anyways, we need to get back on topic.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. So, like I said, San Giovanni, amazing time. Had the time of our lives at this little beach. There's also like a little restaurant and a little bar on the beach. So they were like playing music. Like the vibes were so good, guys. I just like am trying to set the scene so you can like kind of get an idea. But so we like went to the bar after, got like a couple drinks. We're just enjoying the view. It was great. We're just killing time. We're like, we got no cares in the world, right? We're free. We're happy. We're on the lake. Life is good. Okay. So we're just taking our time.
Turn.
Yes. Things are about to take a turn for the worse. Okay. Because we pack up our stuff. We're like, okay, it's probably time to head back. We'll go back to the port. And our plan was to go to Bellagio next because that was like where we really wanted to go. If you've seen pictures of Bellagio, it's like super cute. And I'll talk about that in a bit. But we walk back to the port and there's like no boats in sight. And so we're like, oh, let's look at the schedule because the huge spreadsheet was like posted on this like board by the port.
Wait, what time of day do you think this was?
This is like 6 p.m.
Oh, okay. So not even that late. And what day of the week is it?
A Sunday.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it was a Sunday. So actually, that means we were trying to get a taxi Monday morning. I said that wrong because I specifically remember this was Sunday.
Okay.
And so we're looking at the schedule because, right, it's 6. Like, we're not thinking like, oh, the sun's about to set. Like, we need to get back. Like, we are not even thinking about that at all. We're like, oh, we're definitely fine on time. We weren't worried at all. Well, we look at this schedule and the next boat isn't coming to San Giovanni until 6:45 and it's 6. And so we're like, oh, okay, like not that big of a deal. Like we'll just sit here and like wait for 45 minutes. Like we're not in a hurry.
Like, not that bad.
Yeah. But this was the last boat of the day.
Okay.
To San Giovanni
to get it.
Yeah. So if we like wouldn't have been like we were sitting there for so long, just like killing time. And so it's like we easily could have sat there for like another hour and had a couple more drinks and like we could have had no idea.
Right.
And we really like I don't know what we would have done because like I said, you can't just like drive back to Como. Like there aren't like the roads are not good and it would take forever. So luckily we didn't have to deal with that, but like Loki came kind of close to being stranded in San Giovanni. And so we like wait for the boat to come. Finally it comes and it also came late. It didn't come till like 6:55.
So you're like, did we miss it?
Yeah, so for 10 minutes we're sitting there after already waiting 45 minutes. Then there was a 10-minute moment of like panic and we're like, oh my god, like the boat isn't showing up, like what are we gonna do? And we were just dumb, like we actually just had no idea what we were doing. And so we're just like, it's honestly amazing we made it out because the little amount of like preparation that we did for this, like looking back, I'm like, why did we think that we could just like handle this? Like it was a big trip. But
no, but I feel like the thing is you can always find your way out of some like I think that's what you learn with like traveling. It's like,
yeah,
you would have figured out what to do. Just like when we get to stories about later in future episodes when your trains were like straight up canceled. It's like you figure it out and you learn. And what seems like it may be the end of the world, you just roll with it and something else will come along and then you'll know for next time.
And honestly, like I've had so many bad travel experiences like before I even went to Europe. Like we'll talk about this in a later episode, but like my last spring break adventure was like such a fiasco and ended up in like me spending the night in the worst airport ever. So we'll like talk about that later. So I like came into this like Europe trip and I was like, honestly, like I've already had horrible travel experiences. So I was like pretty much ready to handle anything, but it still was like takes a toll on you, you know. But going through those things, like it does make you like more of a go with the flow person when you travel in the future, because like the more stuff you go through, the more you realize like, okay, nothing is actually going to be the end of the world. Like no matter what happens, like you'll figure something out.
Right.
So it's like, it makes you a little less of like an anxious person when you're traveling. So at the end of the day, like it's good to like go through things like that. But
Definitely.
yeah, so basically we were all like kind of freaking out a little bit, but then the boat did end up coming. So it was fine.
Okay.
We get on the boat and I'm like asking like the captain, I'm like, hey, like we're trying to go to Bellagio right now and then we need to make it back to Como. Like what time should we, like when is the last boat that goes from Bellagio to Como? And he like stops what he's doing. He like turns and looks at me. He's like, you're trying to get back to Como tonight? And we were like, yeah.
Oh no.
He's like, you need to immediately get on a boat in Bellagio and get back to Como. And we're like, immediately? It's like 7 p.m. And he's like, yeah, the last boat leaves from Bellagio at 7:30 to go back to Como. And like, we weren't even in Bellagio yet. We still had like a 15-minute boat ride to get to Bellagio. And so this guy's like, you're like, you have no idea what's going on. He's like looking at me like, you are dumb because this is like, you need to be there now on the boat to go back home.
Oh no.
And we just had no idea because we're like, why? Like, we never would have thought like the last boat at 7:30. That seems so early. Like in the summer when it stays light till like 9:30. Like, I don't know. We just like weren't really thinking about it. Again, didn't look at the schedule that was literally provided to us that we could have just looked at, and we just didn't because we thought we'd be fine. I don't know. And so we're like, oh man, like we're so upset because we wanted to like get dinner in Bellagio and like walk around and like see what was over there. So we get to the Bellagio port and there's a line of people to get on the next boat that is like wrapped around the entire like edge of the town, like all along the lake. Like so many people, literally hundreds of people are lined up.
And how many people can be on these boats to go
back? Dude, I don't know.
Not
like,
that many.
I don't know. Not hundreds. I mean, they're pretty big. They have like multiple floors, but like there were so many people in line. And so we're like, oh my God, like what if we don't even get a spot? Like, what do we do? So we get off this boat and like immediately get in line and we're like asking people like, you're trying to get back to Como? You're trying to get back to Como? They're all like, yeah, like you can tell like everybody's like stressed out and like in a bad mood. And so we're like, when's this next boat leaving? They're saying like 7:40. So we had gotten there at like 7:25.
Oh my gosh.
And so Megan, the girl that I'm with, she like really wanted to go to Bellagio. So she's like so upset that we like don't get to see it. And so I'm like, Megan, like let's just go like run. Like let's just like run through it and like see the town like as quick as we can.
Oh my gosh.
And she's like, okay, like sounds good. So the two other girls we were with, they like stayed in line for us.
Wow.
And me and Megan are literally like sprinting through the streets of Bellagio, like stopping to take pictures of like random things that we like see are cool, and then just like keep running to like go see the next thing.
What
and
an
like
experience.
Yeah, like we looked like fools.
But, oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I'm glad like we did, honestly. Like no regrets. Like I'm glad we got to see like parts of it and got to see like
your friends that stayed in line for you deserve all the kudos because
I know.
Nice of them.
Oh, I know. And like I don't think they really cared, and I honestly think they were like tired and probably were like fine to just like stand there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like also like super nice of them. Like they didn't have to do that, you know? So yeah. So I do have like 2 pictures that I got from Bellagio that I will share on the Instagram.
So that was like your last day in Como? Like you couldn't even like go back the next day or anything to Bellagio?
No, that was literally like we had like one full day of like traveling around the lake.
Okay. So Bellagio is the town besides Como, obviously. And I feel like I only know of Como because the lake is called Lake Como.
Right.
But besides that, I felt like Bellagio was that was the town that I have heard the most about. So why is that one like the most well known? Or why would I have like heard of that one more than the others?
Well, okay. So like I said, where it's located on the lake, it's right in the middle of the Y. So it's a really good central location for if you wanted to go to like the northern part of the lake or the eastern part of the lake, because Como's in the southwest corner. So like
Okay.
I said, like the boat ticket that we got from Como wouldn't even let us go to like the other parts of the lake because it's just
Right.
like too far away. Whereas if you're
Okay.
staying in Bellagio, you have access to all the parts of the lake. So depending on what you want to see, I honestly don't even know like what there is to see in the other parts of the lake because we didn't see it. So I
Yeah.
don't know if it's like pretty much the same thing or if it's like looks really different. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
But I know that that's like a really big pro to staying in Bellagio. And also it's just like the most luxurious. I feel like it was like full of really nice like resorts and boutiques and very, very touristy, but like very felt high class.
Wait,
And
where is George Clooney's house? What town is his in? Do you know?
I literally don't even know. I can look it up right
I
now.
feel like that's like one of the first like times I've heard of Lake Como's. Like, oh, this is where George Clooney has a villa and he vacations there all the time.
Yeah.
I feel like
know.
he like
So
put it
many
on the
people ask
map.
me about that. His is in Loglio, Lake Como. So Loglio is pretty close to Como. It's
Oh,
on like the
okay.
southwest side of the lake.
Okay.
So it's just like a couple towns up.
I guess that would make sense. He probably takes his private jet into Como and doesn't want to have to go too far to get to his villa.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a little reserved and removed from the population, but
Right.
yeah, basically it's halfway in between Lenno and Como.
Okay. Okay. Okay, but anyway, so you run around Bellagio, take a few pictures, and then you get on the boat eventually?
we run back just as they like start to board the boat.
Perfect.
And somehow we fit like on this boat. I don't know how they fit so many people on it.
Were you like packed in like sardines?
We had like a seat actually, but we were on like the upper deck. So we were like outside. Which was so fine
cool,
though.
I feel like that's even like fun, like taking because it's different than like other places you go to where you have to like take buses or something from like town to town.
Yeah.
Being able to take a boat back to your Airbnb is so nice.
It was like such a cool experience and just like so unique. Like when else are you gonna like be taking boat taxis from town to town? Like I don't know. It was so cool. And I was gonna say it ended up being like kind of a blessing in disguise that we like got this boat because the last boat of the night stops at literally every single town. Oh, wow. So, and the reason we found out that the last boat is so early in the night is we didn't get back to Como till almost 10 p.m. because it took
left at like
7:40.
Yeah, dang.
Yeah, so we were on this boat for a long time because it had to stop at every single town going up and down that lake. So that just gives you an idea of like how big this lake literally is because we only went through like a third of it basically, and it took over 2 hours to get from like one point to the bottom.
Wow.
Yeah, so but it was really cool getting to stop at all the different towns because even though we were only stopped there for like 30 seconds literally to let people on and off, like getting to see like all the different ports up close was really cool. And there's some like really, really small, like some of these towns are literally just like 2 resorts.
Right.
And that's like the entire town.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was just like so cute and quaint. And like there was like a waterfall that we saw that was at a port. And like people would like go out to the ports and like wave. And so we would like wave at everybody. And like
it was so precious.
It was really cute. And I'm like glad we ended up like, even though the boat like it took so long and like ended up being the last one of the night and was like really stressful at first, it ended up being like a really fun like part of the trip. So it was cool.
I can't wait to see these pictures again. Obviously, I like saw them when you were there, but I'm just like excited to because like literally that one picture you posted on the Instagram story or the video that you posted on the Instagram story, I was like, oh my gosh, this is literally unbelievable. It's so pretty.
Yeah, it was crazy. And well, that was like another thing that I was going to talk about, like about a private boat tour is it would have been really cool to like you could like see different areas like way quicker, obviously, when you're on like a speedboat. But then also you can like tell them to stop whenever and you can like get out and swim around like wherever you want. And so when we were like sightseeing, we saw like groups of boats, like hanging out and like docked together like on the lake. And I'm like See, that would be like really fun.
That would be
Like
really
if you
cool.
were there with like a lot of people, or like even if you weren't, just like having the freedom to be able to get in and swim wherever you want, because the beaches, like the beach access is really hard to come by unless
Right.
you're like staying at a resort. So like maybe if you save the money and like stay at like a place that doesn't have beach access, like spending the money to do like a private boat tour would like maybe be worth it, or like save the money on that and like spend more money at a resort that like gives you beach access would be my recommendation.
Yeah, that's a good thought, because it's like if you're spending money to get to Lake Como, it's like you want to get the most out of the experience. So maybe
Right.
just like, and I feel like this is something that we've learned, like, talking about like the Paris episode last week about like all the stuff that I literally just like, I'm freaking in Paris and I didn't go inside the Louvre. Like just things like that. It's like if you're there, just do it. You don't know, like, you don't know if you'll ever be back there. So it's like part of it's like if you can swing it, like do the things that are like the once in a lifetime chance when you're there. So
Yeah. That's like, I don't know. I like spent so much money when I was there because I like had that mentality, but it's like I also have no regrets though.
Yeah.
Like I shouldn't have probably spent as much as I did, but it's like everything that we experienced. I mean, first of all, we weren't going out and doing these like extravagant, like frivolous things,
Right.
but it's like we were just doing like things that like we know we're probably never going to be back here again. And it's like if we want to experience it, it's like we have to do it now. Like when are we going to be back?
Yeah.
So,
And that's literally how I am now, is like now I'm like, I will spend the money on the experience. If you know me, I hate buying things like
you
furniture,
hate shopping.
clothes. Like I hate it. Yeah, I hate it so much. I hate just having like things and spending money on things, because then I'm just looking at it, and every single day I'm looking at it and being like, I spent this much money on this. Whereas it's like an experience, or even like I like spending money on good restaurants and good food, but that's like an experience to me. I do it, and then all I have left is the memory of it. I'm not like looking at it every day and being like, oh, I spent so much money on that. It's like, oh, that was such a fun time, and I've never
and then you can like
anything
cherish
like
it.
that. Exactly.
Yeah. And like I said, it's like spending money on travel, like it's so hard to do in the moment, but it's like when you get those memories and those like core experiences that you're literally going to be talking about for the rest of your life, like that is so invaluable. And like, I don't know, to me, that's like, there's no like amount of money that you can even like put on that as it's worth, when it's like, you're literally going to be, I'm going to be like telling my children and my grandchildren about this in like 50 years down the road.
Right.
About like, oh, when I studied abroad, blah, blah, blah. Like,
and they're going to be like, okay, mom, chill.
Yeah. Okay, red bikini. Not that cool. Put it away, Mom.
Gosh. Yeah,
Put it away.
Like, look at me in my red bikini.
Kids, this was my peak.
Yeah, literally. Oh my gosh. Okay, anything else about Como, Lake Como, any of the other lake towns?
There was one other thing that I wanted to talk about that I actually found out about when I was like doing research for this. I didn't even like realize it was a thing. But if you're into like hiking and more outdoorsy things, there's a Como Greenway that is like a 7-mile long path that used to be like an old Roman road that is like no longer used as cars. And so it's like pretty overgrown. But it's like a walking path, or they also said like people will like mountain bike on it.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's all just along the lake. So the views, I'm sure, are just like amazing. But it goes from the towns of Colonno to Tremezzo, and basically Tremezzo is the town just north of Lenno, which is the like park that we went, the villa with like the film locations like Star Wars and stuff. And the hike to get to that villa, part of it is actually a part of that Greenway, which I didn't even realize when we were doing it. But when I was like researching it, this like all came up, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And like, obviously we didn't have the time in our trip to do that, but if you do, I'm sure you could just see like some of the most amazing views that obviously aren't even like accessible by car or like any way other than foot. So that would be something like really cool that if I were to go back, I would definitely want to check that out. But
Yeah, that's really cool. That's good to know. Wait,
yeah.
how many days were you there? Like just in like around Lake Como?
We got there Saturday morning and then left Monday morning.
Okay, so that was really short.
Yeah. So
how many days do you think would be like the perfect amount of time to like really be able to enjoy and see everything that's worth it?
I felt like staying in Como like one day, and because we spent like all day Saturday in Como, and like that was plenty. Like each town is pretty small, so it honestly depends on like what you want to do and how many different places you want to see, because basically you're gonna have to like spend time traveling from like place to place,
right?
And it's like I don't know how long you really need in one specific town because each one is like pretty small,
right?
So I don't know.
Maybe
I feel
at least one extra day to be able to get them more out of like Bellagio, or maybe do that hike or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like, I don't know, maybe give yourself like 2 full days to like explore different towns on the lake, because it's like we really got to stop in like 2 places,
right,
and like really explore them. And I mean, there were so many places, especially when we were on that boat ride on the way home, so many places that we were like, oh my gosh, that is so cute. Like, wish we could get off and like go explore that right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say like at least like a full other day. But I mean, you could stay there for like 5 days and not
and just
see
like
every single town.
Yeah.
Okay, so cool. Totally depends on like if you're more of like an active traveler or if you just want to relax, then it could like totally depend. But
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. I feel like I got a lot out of this episode, since I definitely want to go to Como someday. So yeah, because we actually like almost, when we were doing our Switzerland trip, we like thought about trying to do Como as well, because it's northern Italy, so it's actually really close to Switzerland, like southern Switzerland. So we thought maybe we could kind of do all in one, but it ended up being there was way too much in Switzerland we wanted to see. So I'm glad that you went first and kind of made some mistakes, because now we'll have the perfect trip there. So
yeah,
someday.
I hope so. I hope I can be helpful to someone. But yeah, I mean, Como is just a place that I would literally go back to in an instant. I would have no problem spending more time there, because like I said, there were so many things that I wanted to see that I like didn't even get to see. So yeah, I'm gonna be really jealous.
Maybe we can do a girls trip there sometime, because I know Mom loves Como, or she's never been, but that's like always been on her list too. So
yeah,
our redeemed girls trip that got canceled because of COVID, maybe we can do it.
Maybe one day. I feel like it's not going to be anytime soon, but I know. We can always
keep dreaming. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's our Como episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you are not subscribed or following whatever the lingo is on whatever podcast app you listen to, please be sure to do that so that you do not miss an episode. This is episode 6. So if you haven't listened to the 5 before this, make sure you do, because we have bits of gold in each one. So you don't want to miss out on those.
Bits of gold.
Yes. Yes. And then make sure you follow us on Instagram at Love It There Pod. You will not want to miss Hallie's photos from Como that she'll post there. Yes. So
literally
be sure to give it a follow. And then make sure, please give us your content that you want to hear from each episode, or even if you've been to these places, we want to know your stories, your experiences, so we can share those with everybody. So we love when the listener requested content. We love that segment. So the more the merrier. So okay.
Perfect.
Anything else you want to leave the people with, Hal?
I don't think so. I think we've said a little too much this episode, so we better cut it here.
All right. Bye, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next Thursday.
Bye.